Well, it seems Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is still concerned about getting 50 Republican votes for the Senate tax bill. He compared it to solving a Rubik's Cube on Tuesday. President Trump appears less concerned. Here's what he had to say.
Everyone. As you know,
I think that we're in a very good position in terms of the meeting we just had over at the Capitol with the Republican senators. It was outstanding. I think we have tremendous support. I was just informed by Mitch that we had a unanimous vote from the Republican side, at least. We had a unanimous vote on the tax bill. And it goes now the next step, and I think we're going to get it passed. I think it's going to pass, and it's going to be very popular.
CBSN political contributor and Republican strategist Alex Conant joins me now from Washington for a Strat Chat. Alex, welcome.
Good evening.
So is it a problem for Republicans that if their tax reform bill does get signed into law, it'll likely pass only along party lines?
Well, certainly it's not ideal, and there remains a lot of hope that if it does pass, if we do get at least 51 votes, at the last minute, you may see some Democrats from red states joining in because at that point their vote doesn't matter, and they figure they'll get some credit back amongst Republicans and swing voters in those red states. So there is still some hope that we might get some Democrats, but the plan was never to rely on Democrats to get it passed. And so this evening, Republicans in Washington are feeling very optimistic. Look, we've got a long way to go. As Mitch McConnell has been saying, this is never going to be easy. We're not there yet, but certainly momentum is on the side of those who want to support tax reform.
Well, in his remarks on Tuesday, the president said that the GOP tax plan would bring back offshore money and help corporations compete better internationally. He did not explicitly mention the middle class. Does it matter to lawmakers what he says about the bill at this point?
Probably not a whole lot. Look, lawmakers, at least Republican lawmakers, feel tremendous amounts of pressure to get tax reform done, in part because they don't have any other major legislative accomplishments to show voters going into next year's midterms, which are already looking very challenging, especially if you represent a swing state or a blue state. So senators like Arizona, Nevada, even Tennessee, potentially challenging states where we either have incumbents who are now retiring because they face tough re-elections or open seats.
I guess I wonder, what does that mean about the president's political capital?
Right. No, it's a great question. And I don't think he has a whole lot of political capital on Capitol Hill in the sense that he doesn't have the personal relationships that, say, George W. Bush or Barack Obama had. And certainly he doesn't have the poll numbers. So while I think he can continue to do what he's doing, which is largely a cheerleader role, I don't think he's going to be able to force Republicans to vote one way or the other, just as he wasn't able to do during the Obamacare repeal effort earlier this year. So I don't think this is a matter of presidential arm twisting or presidential capital. It's mostly a matter of, can the president continue to be a cheerleader? Can he continue to stay out of the way? So far, he's been successful at that. Well,
what do you think the chances are realistically that the Senate votes on this bill this week?
I mean, that's anyone's guess at this point. I actually think there's a high chance that it happens. Look, they don't want to drag this process out. I think the longer that this drags out, the harder it is to get done, because members will continue to find things that they want inserted in the bill, and they will continue to discover that by being questioning the bill or criticizing the bill will get them on TV really quickly. So they want to get this done quickly, and also they want to get it done before Christmas. They don't want this to bleed into next year. So in order to stay on that sort of a schedule, you really do need to get it done this week, or at least at the beginning of next week. So I fully expect that there will be a Senate vote this week, and I think that the chances are that it will pass, but we have a ways to go.
Well, the president was supposed to meet with both Democratic and Republican leaders Tuesday to discuss a bill to keep the government open, but the Democrats didn't go because of one of President Trump's tweets. Why would the president say that he doesn't see a deal with them when there is so much on the line? Is there a strategy there?
Well, I think there's a lot of political posturing and a lot of political theater on all parts.
There is, Alex? That's shocking.
Right. Shocking, especially since, heck, the deadline isn't for another almost 2 weeks from now to actually cut a deal. So I think the president was obviously aggressive this morning in trying to lay out his negotiating posture, and then the Democrats did what you would expect them to do, which is take an even more aggressive negotiating position, which was saying that they weren't even going to begin to talk. Look, this is a lot of posturing. I think it's great political theater, but I don't think it really matters in terms of the end result. It is in no one's interest to shut down the government next week. They're already beginning to point fingers at each other, which is really a recognition that both sides will look terrible if the government shuts down next week or later this month. And so there's a lot of pressure on them to deliver. While they didn't have the face-to-face meeting, while they didn't have the photo ops today, I have no doubt that their staffs are continuing to work towards a deal.
I mean, the bottom line is that Republicans need Democratic votes to pass spending packages. How helpful is it? You talked about on the tax bill, the president staying out of the way, essentially, as that debate continues. But here you have the president calling Democratic leaders weak. How helpful is that?
Well, it's not really helpful, but at the end of the day, this will be a deal that I think will have to be made largely between congressional leaders. And then since it's a deal and there'll be some compromises and there'll be some things in the package that some Republicans don't like, that's, I think, where the president can come in and give his blessing to the final deal. And that will give the cover to Republicans to support it, even if it doesn't include everything that they want. But these end-of-the-year budget deals, what we're witnessing now is really the last great compromise that you ever see in Washington any longer. And they can be very politically costly. The previous Speaker of the House, John Boehner, effectively lost his job because of the deals he had to cut with Barack Obama. So there's a lot on the line here for all parties at stake, which I think is why we're seeing all this political theater. But at the end of the day, it's very important that a deal is actually made, and it's in everyone's long-term interest that that's the case.
All right, Alex Conant in Washington. Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.